Welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this video we will continue the incompressible viscous flow in pipes. In part 1 we have discussed the Reynolds experiment to classify the flow as laminar and turbulent flow. We also discussed about the importance of the entrance region and the fully developed region in a pipe flow. And in this video, part 2, we will discuss the fully developed laminar flow. We will do the theoretical analysis to derive the shear stress and the velocity profile for a laminar flow in a pipe but in the fully developed region. Also we will do the energy analysis in a pipe flow and we will try to find out the head loss when the viscous flow takes place in pipe. So now we will do the theoretical analysis for a fully developed laminar flow in a pipe. So you have already seen that theoretical analysis can be done for a laminar flow, because in case of a laminar flow the fluid particles flow in layers. They don't change the position in the lateral direction. They don't mix with the surrounding layers. So they flow in layers and the flow is systematic. So that's why the laminar flows can be analyzed theoretically, but in turbulent flow we cannot do any theoretical analysis. Mostly we will rely on the experimental data, semi-empirical correlations for turbulent flow. So we have discussed the fully developed region. So the analysis for a fully developed region is quite simplified because the flow becomes one-dimensional flow. So the velocity profiles will not change along the axial direction. X. Only the velocity profile will change along the radial direction. So we will start from the center in the R direction towards the wall. So R equal to 0 means it is the center line. So we will choose a small fluid element at a distance R of length L. So the length is L and the height of the fluid element is 2R. This is a small fluid element we choose as a control volume, and also we assume that the flow is a steady state flow and it's incompressible as well as viscous flow. So as it is a steady flow, so there is no local acceleration, and also as the flow we have considered in a fully developed laminar flow, so there is also no velocity change with respect to space. So the velocity is not a function of space coordinate, or space coordinate means axial, space coordinate along the axis, and it is also not a function of time. So there is no convective acceleration and there is no local acceleration. So only the forces will act on the fluid element. So the pressure force and the viscous force will act on the fluid element, and let's this delta P is the pressure drop over the length L. So along the direction of the flow we have already seen that it's a pressure gradient takes place. It's a pressure driven flow. So at the inlet pressure is more compared to the outlet. So along the direction of the flow a pressure gradient exists. So let delta P is the pressure drop over this length L. So at the inlet on the upstream position the pressure force is P into pi R square, and in the downstream position the pressure force is P minus delta P into pi R square. and the shear stress acting on the lateral surface in the tangential direction opposing the motion. It's 2 pi RL into tau, where tau is the shear stress and 2 pi RL is the lateral surface area. So the force balance gives this force minus this force minus this force equal to 0. So rearranging this, we get delta P by L equal to 2 tau by R. So here we see that delta P is independent of R, because delta P depends only the length. Along the axial direction only the pressure drop takes place. So delta P is independent of R. L is obviously independent of R. So this term delta P by L is independent of R. So that means 2 tau by R is also independent of R. So your 2 tau by R is constant. Yeah, tau by R is a constant value. So tau equal to C into R. So this constant value we have to find. Then replacing this value, we will get the expression for the shear stress. How the shear stress will vary along the radial direction. So the boundary condition we have to use to solve that equation. So when R equal to 0 means at the center line your shear stress is 0, and when R equal to d by 2 means at the wall shear stress equal to tau w, wall shear stress. So putting this value we will get C equal to 2 tau w by d. So put the value of C and we will get the expression for the shear stress tau equal to 2 tau w by d into R. So we put the value R equal to 0, so we are getting center line value is tau equal to 0, and when you put R equal to d by 2 you are getting shear stress equal to tau w. So shear stress is 0 at the center line and maximum at the wall, but the velocity profile is the velocity is 0 at the wall due to no slip boundary condition and maximum at the center line. We will get so how the velocity variation takes place in the radial direction for the laminar as well as for turbulent flow, we will find out. So the velocity profile is very important. If you know the velocity profile, you can find out the other parameters. So that we will see. So now your delta P by L equal to 2 tau by L, 2 tau by R, and also tau equal to, from the force balance we got this. So from these two equations remove tau. So we got the delta P, that means the pressure drop over the length L equal to 4L tau W by D. So till now up to this we have not assumed whether the flow is laminar or turbulent. So that is why up to this formula it is valid for laminar flow as well as turbulent flow. But for turbulent flow we don't have any theories, much theories. So that's why from this onwards we cannot proceed for a turbulent flow. But for a laminar flow we already know. For laminar and Newtonian flow we have the expression for shear stress from the Newton's law of viscosity. Why this is negative? Because we have taken the axis as the reference and we are moving in the r directions toward the wall. So that's why du by dr will be negative. So that's why we have used a negative sign here. So from here, from this and from this equation and this equation, from this equation, so du by dr we will get. So put the value of tau from here, from this equation you will get the expression for tau in terms of the pressure drop. So put the value of tau here. So from here you will get du by dr equal to minus del P by 2 mu L into R. So now you have to integrate this. So from this expression we will get the velocity profile by integration of this expression. So u equal to minus del P by 2 mu L into R square by 2 plus a constant. How will you get the constant value? Again using the boundary condition. So the velocity we know at the wall is 0 due to no slip boundary condition. So R equal to d by 2, u equal to 0. So you will get the value of the constant. Now put this value here, we will get the expression for the velocity profile. So this is the expression for the velocity profile. So the velocity at the center line we can get by putting r equal to 0. So when r equal to 0, we will get the maximum velocity along the center line. So here put r equal to 0. So u max equal to del p by 16 mu l into d square. So u equal to u max into 1 minus r square by r square. One minus r square by r square whole square. So this is the parabolic velocity profile for a laminar flow. So the velocity will vary in a parabolic manner along the radial coordinates, but along axial coordinate there is no variation. It will be similar velocity profile because we have considered the fully developed region. Sorry, the velocity profile, there will be no square, only 1 minus 2r by d square. This square will not be there. So this square also will not be there, this square also will not be there. So the velocity profile u, which is a function of radial coordinate only, is equal to u max of 1 minus r square by r square. So it is a parabolic velocity profile. So once we know the velocity profile, we know the velocity at a cross section, then we can multiply the velocity with the cross sectional area to get the volumetric flow rate. So how to find out? Again, consider a small elemental ring at a distance r of thickness dr, in a cross section. Then what will be this small area through which flow takes place? It is 2 pi r into dr. So this small area into the velocity u will give you the flow rates along that small area. If you integrate over the cross section, we will get the total flow rate. So this is the total flow rate. 2 pi r dr into, this is the expression of the velocity in case of a laminar flow, which is u max into 1 minus r square by r square. So you integrate from 0 to capital R. So you will get this value. So this is the expression for the volumetric flow in case of a laminar flow. So if you know the u max into pi r square by 2, so that will give you the volumetric flow rate. Also sometimes you assume that the velocity is uniform in a cross section. So if I will assume that velocity is uniform in a cross section, then my flow rate will be u average into area pi r square. So from these two expressions, we are getting that u average is u max by 2 in case of a laminar flow. So if you know the u max, then just divide by 2. You will get the average velocity. If you know the average velocity, then you can find out the volumetric flow rate at any cross section if you know the cross-sectional area. So the volumetric flow rate Q will be this much. Put the value of u max. Already we have the expression for u max from the velocity profile. Just replace this. So you will get the volumetric flow rate in terms of pressure drop. Okay. So if you know the pressure drop, then also you can find out the volumetric flow rate. But in case of a turbulent flow, fully developed pipe flow, so there is no theories behind that. So people have done a lot of experiments. So from the experiments, they found that the velocity profile is like this. In case of a laminar flow, it's parabolic profile, but in case of a turbulent flow, u, velocity profile, is u by u max equal to 1 minus r by r to the power 1 by 7. We call it 1 by 7th power law. So this velocity profile is valid for turbulent flows in fully developed region. So this is all about the velocity profile for laminar flow, for turbulent flow. If you know the velocity profile, you can find out the volumetric flow rate. Now we will do the analysis considering the energies in pipe flow. So from the Bernoulli's equation, we see that the total energy, the pressure head, the velocity head and the static head. This is the static head, this is the velocity head and this is the pressure head. Basically this is the summation of all forms of energies at a cross section. So we will get the different values for these quantities at a different cross sections, and if we will plot that along the length of the pipe, we will get the energy gradient line. But in Bernoulli's equation, we have assumed that the flow is inviscid, but here we are doing the analysis for a viscous flow. So that's why this EGL, energy gradient line, will continuously decrease because some energies will be dissipated. We call it the viscous dissipation in the direction of the flow. So that analysis we will do. So we have considered a control volume for a 90-degree reducing elbow. So different cross sections. This inlet cross section is higher and this outlet cross section is low area. This is high area, this is low area we have taken, and we will apply the first law of thermodynamics because we are doing the energy consideration. So the first law of thermodynamics is the heat transfer minus work transfer is rate of change of energy of the system. Rate of change of energy of the system. So it's a only fluid flow. So there is no soft work or other forms of work. The shear work will be there. The shear force is there, but the shear work will be zero because the velocity at the wall is zero due to no slip boundary condition. So that's why all forms of work will be zero. So that's why only the heat transfer will be equal to the rate of change of energy of the system. But we have considered a control volume, so we have to convert that expression for a control volume using Reynolds transport theorem. So we state that Q dot equal to del by del T of E rho dV for the control volume plus integration E plus PV rho V dot dA. Already in my previous video we have discussed in detail about the Reynolds transport theorem. So just I have written the first law of thermodynamics for the control volume using Reynolds transport theorem. So this small e is the specific energy which consists of internal energy, this is the kinetic energy and this is the potential energy. And the flow is a steady flow, so that's why this the first term of the right hand side will be 0. So Q dot equal to only this much. So assumptions are, so all forms of work transfer is 0, it's a steady flow, it's a incompressible flow, and the internal energy and the pressure is uniform across the sections 1 and 2. So the energy equation reduces to m dot u2 minus u1 plus m dot p2 by rho minus p1 by rho plus m dot g z2 minus z1 plus these are the kinetic energies. So this we, if we will simplify this expression and put E equal to this much, okay, over the control surface. So the integration over a control surface means it is from the Reynolds transport theorem. We see that it is the net outflux. So outlet quantities minus inlet quantities. In that form we have written. So that's why it's U2 minus C1 and this is P2 minus P1. Also we will get the, this is the kinetic energy terms. We have written in integration because velocities are not uniform. we are getting the velocity profile. So v1 and v2, they vary along the radial direction. So that's why we have to do the integration to get the total kinetic energy at a particular cross section. So this is the main difficulty. So due to non-uniform velocities at a particular cross section. So to overcome this difficulty, a kinetic energy coefficient, correction factor is introduced, alpha. So if I will assume that velocity is uniform at a particular cross section, then I can find out the kinetic energy. It is half mv square rho into v into dA is the mass flow rate, half into mass into v square, average velocity. So this gives me the kinetic energy considering the average velocity, and this left hand side will give me the kinetic energy considering the actual velocity profile, which is varying, not uniform. So the actual kinetic energy will be equal to alpha into kinetic energy considering uniform velocity. So this way we have defined a correction factor for the kinetic energy so that I can remove the integration and I can use the uniform velocities at inlet as well as at outlet. So from this definition we will get alpha equal to this. So integration of rho b cube dA by m dot v average square. Now this velocity profile you know for laminar flow as well as for the turbulent flow. So for the laminar flow it is parabolic profile, and for turbulent flow we have 1/7 power law profile. So if you will put this velocity profile, do the integration and divide by m dot v average square, then you will get alpha. So for laminar flow alpha equal to 2, for turbulent flow alpha equal to this much. So this is a homework to all of you. Try to solve it. Try to find out the kinetic energy correction factor for laminar flow and for turbulent flow. It's not difficult. Just to do the integration and divide this m dot v average square, you will get alpha. So now using the definition of alpha, the energy equation becomes, so integrals are removed from the equation. So q dot equal to, so these values are put for the kinetic energy. So now this is in terms of rate basis. So q dot is heat transfer rate. So sometimes we are interested to find out in terms of mass per unit mass basis. So we can divide the whole equation by m dot. So this becomes heat transfer per unit mass will be equal to this. This small letters, this U2, U1, these are the specific quantities, internal energy, for internal energy. So m dot was there in every quantity in the right hand side, so that will be gone. So we will rearrange that equation, okay, like summation at a particular cross section. So summation of all the terms at section 1 at the inlet, P1 by rho plus alpha 1 by 2 into V average square at 1 plus GZ1. So this is the summation of all energies, pressure energy, this is the kinetic energy, and this is the potential energy. So minus the summation of all energies at section 2 is equal to U2 minus U1 minus del Q by M. So this right hand side term is nothing but loss of mechanical energy between section 1 and 2, that is the total energy loss per unit mass. So I use the small letter HL, L for loss. So small HL means the total energy loss per unit mass between the sections 1 and 2. So this is one of the most important and useful equation in fluid mechanics. So the equation can be also written by taking the head terms. I will express all the terms in terms of the unit of head, length, in the unit of length. Then you divide the terms by G, like P1 by rho was there, now divide by G, P1 by rho G. So the unit of this will be meter. Similarly the second term again divide by G, and this will be divided by G. So there was G, and here also you will get a G. You divide this quantity by G. So all the terms will be the in terms of unit of length, and this also HL by G. So this will be capital HL. So capital HL is the loss in terms of unit of length. Okay. So different the head loss. So different head loss will take place when the flow takes place inside a pipe. So in my next lecture we will discuss in detail about the different types of losses, the major loss as well as the different types of the minor losses. So this expression is very important. So try to remember this expression. So this is in terms of the unit of length. So summation of all energies at inlet minus summation of all energies at the outlet is equal to the head loss. And this expression we will use. This also we can use, but this is per unit mass, and this expression is in terms of unit of length. Thanks.